Welcome to the Stop Over Drinking and Start Living podcast, where high-achieving, goal-oriented rebel women come to learn how to live a vibrant and fulfilling life without requiring alcohol to get through it. No labels, no judgments, no saying you'll never drink again. Just real proven methods to help you stop rebelling against yourself with alcohol so you can drink less and do more. I'm your host, Angela Mascenik. Let's dig in. Welcome to episode 376. Your drinking is a response that became a habit. Well, hello. How's everybody doing? Today, I want to talk about this idea that drinking is a habit, which it is, but we're going to back it up a little bit, and I'm going to help you understand how that habit was formed and what you need to think about differently in order to break this habit and get underneath the cycle of over drinking. So I've coached thousands of women. I've been at it for 8 years plus, because I'm on 376 podcast episodes. But a lot of times what I hear from people, and this is what it was like for me, is these, they get ready to go pour a drink or they're about to drink the drink and they have these thoughts like, I don't even know if I want this, but I also don't know how to not want it. Right? So like a lot of times, especially as people are getting aware of their relationship with alcohol and, wanting to cut back, they are becoming more aware of like, I don't know if I want this, but like I find myself with a glass of wine in my hand. So if that's you, you are definitely listening to the right episode. And if you've tried to break your habit of over drinking by focusing on actions to take or not to take, like counting, avoiding, not having alcohol in the house, those are actions that you're trying to break, right? This is going to be really helpful for you to understand why those efforts aren't generally a permanent solution, because the habit was formed before it was a habit, okay? It started as an emotional response. Before it was a habit, it was an emotional response, a response to pressure, to stimulation, to loneliness, to boredom, to reward, to celebration, to shutting your brain off at the end of the day. And over time, that response, that emotional response got repeated enough so that now it feels automatic and that habit is formed. And it can feel like it's part of your identity, part of your personality, or part of your life that you might feel like you have to manage forever. And today, I really want to slow this down and help you understand what's actually happening. Because when you really get this, something is going to start shifting for you. And it stops feeling like there's something wrong with you. And it feels like something that you can actually fix and get under. So what the response actually is this. It's just not like all of a sudden you had this drinking issue, right? That you're drinking every night. It showed up at very specific moments and decision points. So it might be, years ago, you're sitting in your car after work before going inside, thinking about your evening routine that was ahead of you and the long day that you just had. Or dinner is done and suddenly the house feels empty or loud. And you might be searching for some sort of relief from that. Or it's Friday afternoon and already you're feeling this build about it's the weekend, you can't wait to shut it off, right? And your brain starts looking for relief. Or maybe it's when your kids go to bed or when they were younger, they went to bed and it's the first time all day you've had alone. And that is an indication that there's a feeling there. Okay, whatever that feeling was for you in those sort of decision points, it could be restlessness, overwhelm, resentment, loneliness, boredom, anticipation, mental fatigue. Fill in the blank. So we were not taught how to be with these feelings, right? Especially if you're a woman of a certain age. I am going to be 48, I think. Yeah, 48 next month. We were not taught about feelings. Feelings were bad. If you had feelings, you were a problem, right? Just be happy. You should be grateful. We're taught to stay productive, stay strong, stay positive, keep going, just push through, just get it done, right? So when a hard or uncomfortable feeling as an adult shows up, we're naturally reaching for something that helped it change. And for a lot of women, that something became alcohol. And it started in those little decision points. And here's the most important part I want you to recognize. It worked. Alcohol did change how you felt. It softened that edge. It created that relief. It created distance from our overthinking mind and issues that we might be facing in our life. And it created this permission, this authority, I guess, for you to just like let yourself relax, right? It's a cue. It's a signal that I don't have to do anything else. I can stop being productive. It's time for my wine. And your brain notices that. And your brain is always paying attention to what creates relief. That's what it does, right? It's looking for signals and patterns and signs to automatically file so it doesn't have to think so hard. And that's how the habit is formed. Every time you drink in response to a feeling, your brain drew a little shortcut. Feeling stressed, then you drink, feel better. Feeling lonely, drink, feel better. Feeling overstimulated, drink, feel better. And your brain is filing that. And over time, if you do this enough times, your brain stops making this a conscious decision, right? You're not like thinking about that decision anymore. It just reaches for the glass. So that's when it can feel like I didn't even plan to drink tonight. I don't know how I ended up opening the bottle. I just told myself just one, right? And you're just like, you're sort of like walking through this without the consciousness of it. So by the time a lot of the high functioning, very capable women come to work with me, drinking really isn't fully conscious choice and decision that they're making every day. It's just a well-practiced response pattern. And this is very important that you understand that because it's not a weakness. It doesn't mean that you lack discipline. As a matter of fact, you have tried very hard to change this at this point, right? And it's definitely not like there's something wrong with you or there's some morality attached to it. It's your brain doing exactly what brains are designed to do. Finding what works and repeating it. That's where the habit is formed, and that's why it feels automatic. So when we think about changing a habit and changing that behavior, habit behavior, same thing, right? Or the actions, these are the language that we use around it. Changing your habit, changing your behavior, changing your actions. If we're just focusing on that, that's where we get stuck. Right? So a lot of times if you do a dry January, not my dry January, but other just like, oh, I'm just doing dry January. And that's the concept, right? It's just taking a break for 30 days. Or you set drink limits, or you put rules in, or you're tracking apps, or you're just focusing on just not going to drink tonight, right? Removing the wine from the house or avoiding social situations, right? That's avoiding the behavior. This can work for a while. Okay, because you're strong and capable. Structure and willpower can actually override a habit temporarily, but they don't change that emotional response underneath. And so the feeling that drove the reach for the drink is still there. Okay, and your skill set to be with that feeling has not changed. But that shortcut that you've created in your brain by responding to those feelings and drinking is still there. So that's a very well ingrained pattern. So the moment that your life gets hard again, or something feels stressful, or the challenge ends, or the rule loosens, that pattern comes right back. That's why so many smart and capable women feel that like they're constantly starting over. Okay? You have tried hard enough. It's like a lot of people like, if I just focus more, if I just try harder, right? And that's usually happens because they've only been working on the surface layer, right? Changing that behavior. And it's exhausting. I totally understand. It was me too. I remember vividly a night in my kitchen where I was really trying to change my relationship with alcohol. I was listening to podcasts. I attended a free webinar, and it was Halloween night. And I said I was not drinking during the week. I was not going to drink during the week. I was focusing on the behavior of it. And I remember vividly like feeling very white knuckly. It was very anxious. The kids were running around. They weren't eating before they went trick-or-treating. It was a little bit of chaos. There was more than just my family over. My neighbor was over. And I vividly remember that moment and just telling my neighbor, I am trying not to drink tonight. And it felt literally impossible. And so I got through that moment, through that white knuckly energy, is just not drink, not drink, not drink. And then when we went trick-or-treating, it just kept like that bill just kept growing. And finally I'm like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to go. And I poured some wine, went back to my house, poured some wine in a sippy cup, took a few sips before I went outside again. And then I felt instant relief because I didn't know how to be with those feelings. I didn't yet know that I shouldn't be just focusing on that behavior and having rules. Okay? And so I totally understand how you feel. And then I felt disappointed the next day, right? Like it wasn't just that the physical sensations of the drinking that I had to deal with now. It just felt like, God, like, why couldn't I do that? Right? And that beating myself up again and again. So I don't want that for you. I want you to understand that we have to get underneath the habit. So real change happens when you go underneath that behavior and start working with the response itself. So you're going to begin to ask, what am I actually feeling right before I reach for that drink? What's this feeling trying to tell me? What happens if I just stay with it just a little bit longer? And that doesn't mean that you sit perfectly with it every night, right? But it doesn't mean that you don't ever want relief. Of course we want relief from this stuff, but there's other options besides alcohol. What you want to do is you want to start building the capacity to experience discomfort without immediately escaping it. And even if you just delay that a little bit, that's growth. And when your capacity grows for being with what's underneath the response, that habit starts to loosen up a little bit. Okay, because the response underneath it is changing. And I've watched thousands of women go from automatically pouring a drink at 5 to pausing, to noticing the urge, using the Angela stop, notice, process technique, and to choosing something different for themselves. And it's not because it was forced. It's really just because they understood how this was created in the first place and what it took to make those changes. And that's exactly the kind of work we do together with private coaching, or we do it on retreats. We do it inside Alive AF. And we're not just changing the drinking behavior, it's changing the internal patterns that drive it. So if you've been trying to change your drinking patterns for months or years, and it keeps feeling harder than it should, this might be why. There's nothing wrong with you, and you just haven't been given the right framework or the right support. And if you're ready to work on this in a deeper, more sustainable, more gentler way, Alive AF, my monthly membership, is actually open for enrollment right now through April 3rd. So inside of it, I'm going to teach you how to be with your feelings, how to be with those urges, how to change this behavior from the inside out. You'll have coaching with me, coaching with Coach Steph. You'll have a community of women all doing this together, and structure and a process and real tools to start interrupting this pattern. So the link is right here in the show notes. It's angelamascenik.com/AliveAF. And I truly would love you to join Alive AF, the membership, to start working on this so that you can make real changes that last with your drinking and not just focusing on the habit itself. All right, my friends, if you have any questions, let me know, but it's open until April 3rd, and I can't wait to see who joins me on the inside. Bye for now.
Pull it off.